Hello, everyone. My name is Warindi. I'm from Kenya, and I'm excited to introduce to you the Make Way for Youth podcast. So this podcast is about having real and authentic conversations on sexual and reproductive health and rights with the African contexts. And I'm just so excited because we have a lineup of exciting episodes coming up, and we'd love to, hear your thoughts and for you to interact with us and also like share what else you'd like to hear from us. But before I go so far, I do have two co-hosts in this particular podcast that I'd like to introduce. I have Bertha and Vilda, who I'm privileged to work with at the Makeway Global Context. So welcome, Bertha and Vilda. You can introduce yourselves, please.
Thank you, Warindi. I am Bertha Chulu, part of the Makeway Youth Panelists from Zambia, and I sit on the Makeway Youth Panel Regional and Global Context.
Vilda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Warindi. I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. My name is Vilda Tieno. I'm from Kenya, Kisumu County. I'm a regional and global youth panel member and also serving in the capacity of a youth panel member in the Kenyan context. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vilda. Lovely interaction. So when I was doing the introduction, I also forgot to mention that I work with y'all, which means I also sit at the regional and global youth panel for the Makeway program. And the Makeway program is all about intersectionality in programming for sexual and reproductive health and rights. And I'm very happy to have my co-host with me here. So I'll start with my next question is why are you passionate about SRHR? What is that, the fire in your belly for you to love doing SRHR advocacy work?
Vil, you can go first.
Thank you so much. Okay. For me, why I'm so passionate about sexual reproductive health and rights. So, as a young woman with disability and also growing from the rural parts of Kisumu, I feel, based on my experience, that I was so much disadvantaged, especially on access to information on matters sexual reproductive health and rights. So, information in a way that being a woman, a young woman with disability, and then most of the time you realize the society was seeing it in a way that you are a person with disability and neglecting the part that you are also a woman. And also, for example, we recognize that as you grow up as a young person, changes do occur in your body. For example, at some point as a woman, you're going to have your menses. But then being a woman with disability, I never got enough information about this, and it was quite a struggle for me to cope up with life. And seeing this and all the experience, and also just not knowing when does it mean when you say no about something, it really means no. And how should people respect you and know when you don't feel comfortable about something? Then I realized there's a lot that happens to young women growing up in the society, especially because they lack information on sexual reproductive health and rights. And because of that, based on my experiences as a young person, then I promised myself that as much I'm still alive, as much as I have the voice to speak up, then I'm not going to allow any other young person to be or experience the same things I experienced as a young person growing up. So this is partly what formed my informed decision to be passionate about sexual reproductive health and rights, so that as we grow, you see the Gen Z now, people have access to information. And of course, I'm seeing it as a way of solving some of the issues that exist, especially on access to sexual reproductive health and rights. Over to you, Bertha.
Wait, before Bertha comes in, I just wanted to share with you, Vilda, that I did a leadership institute with KRIA, and one of the modules in that leadership institute was disability and SRHR, and the lady who was facilitating the conversation for us, her name is Mildred Omino, and she was telling us, I think what you just said, that people view people with disabilities as asexual, not like as sexual beings. Like people have this whole thought process that people with disabilities people living with disabilities are asexual. So, I mean, I totally understand your experience. I mean, from that, training that I had with them. But over to you, Bertha.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Warindi, and thank you, Vilda. I was getting inspired on the way. Hearing you
Me
say,
too.
as long as you have a voice, yeah, that's very inspirational. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the fire that burns me up to pursue sexual and reproductive health and rights advocacy is really attached to personal stories, some very close and some in the spaces I had to find myself in. So when I was growing up, I was at an all girls school. And at this all girls school, we used to be known for producing teenage pregnancies. So
Mm,
just you wearing a uniform and moving around the district, someone would say, "Ah, you come from the school that is a chief manufacturer of pregnancies." It's just a matter of time before you also become a victim or, be part of the statistics. So this did not really settle well with me. One time it was really sad. I was elected as head girl of that school, and then I was taking a walk in the streets going home from school, and then I met a taxi driver that told me, "Ah, you're even a head girl of prostitutes." Because of the name that we carried for being in the news and being part of the statistics for producing pregnancies nearly every term, every month, we would have dropouts in school. And I felt we needed to do something about it. We needed to make information very available. And we also needed to champion advocacy work that's going to influence policy to be responsive to this gap that we're facing that's resulting into young girls falling pregnant in huge numbers. So that's pretty much what fuels me.
I mean, I do think that we share the same experience because I also went to like an all girls school as well, in high school though.
Mhm,
But I think my passion for
mhm.
SRHR comes from my primary school education, where I think similar to you as well, Bertha, that most girls in our school wouldn't transition to high school because they got pregnant, they got with they got babies and they weren't able to transition because they had to take care of their children. And also, like the same way you just said, the reputation for our school was also that, like, it was a school of girls who just get pregnant and then don't just advance in life. And from then on, I was just like, sexual and reproductive health and
Yeah.
rights is like a very interesting and a very important topic to have, because I also remember, like, when you were doing like science, like when you're in grade 6 or class 6 for us, you do have like a science class and you're taught the basics about reproductive health. I mean, not even reproductive health, the reproductive system. And that didn't cover reproductive health. It's just like, oh, this is your body, you have a uterus, you have a vagina, you have ovaries, but no education on sex, you get. So it's the fact that society denies that young people or adolescents have sex, which they do. Let's be honest about it. Young
Yeah.
people do have sex even before they're of legal age to have sex. So the deniability of society, I felt like, made the situation get even worse, because if you don't know how to protect yourself, then you cannot protect yourself. So the lack of information around SRHR is one of the things that was just glued to my head. And I really, really, really wanted to get into this space so that, I can learn more, first of all, for myself, because
Mhm.
I do feel like once I got into this space is when I got to like get information about SRHR, like candid, direct information about SRHR, which many girls don't have. So yeah, so I mean, this space really, really has opened up my mind about SRHR, and everything, which I love, because now I can be an advocate in
Yeah,
my.
when I was reflecting on the how many girls, especially from the rural areas, that I have got to interact with, and they're like, okay, we were doing sometimes back during the COVID-19, and then like we went to the community to just conduct some research on how COVID had affected the SRHR of young people. And then within this, then I got to interact with a number of young people who are just saying they had to have sex with older men because they wanted to get access to pads, which at some point their family will not provide. And you see, because of this, there were so many dropouts. Young girls were getting pregnant every now and then, but then you realize even at that point, nobody is digging it out to know, like, why is this happening, instead of just for example, labeling a school. Like, you see better when you are sharing your experience and then you have been labeled, but then the real cause of this, why all this is happening, nobody has even dig to find out why is there are high numbers of dropouts in the school and all that. Yeah, so I love your
Right.
experiences.
Bertha?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I just wanted to add, you know how you guys are talking about that number of girls that would fall off, right? Because of these vices. Vilda, you're just giving an example of young girls in rural areas. You've heard about this thing that they call the human capital development of a nation?
Yes, yes, I have. I have heard that, yeah.
Um, exactly.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
in a country like Zambia, our child marriage rate is at 29%. So that means 29% of our adolescent girls and young women are falling off. If we were to account it to Zambian population currently, that's um, over millions of numbers of girls, right? And then imagine
Yes.
in that same vein, we're missing potential surgeons, we are missing potential educationalists, and then they just drop off of school because of teenage pregnancies. We don't secure their future, and we don't even do anything to make information accessible to them, let alone services from their nearby facilities with regards to their sexual reproductive health. So it's a sad reality, and really it's a call that we need to do something about it, and that is what keeps us going in this field.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because we must, as you know, the thing is that we're youth. That means we're like the future of our nations, but also like we have to, change or like initiate
Hmm.
change or advocate for change for the future generations of our countries, because we want our countries to thrive. We want change. We want to see, development and everything. So like I really, really, you know, uh, understand where you're coming from, and I'm really, really something else. I'm really, really passionate about Africa, and Africa, growing and taking its stage in the world. And I do think that
Right.
sexual and reproductive health and rights is one of the ways that we can empower women, for example, to have bodily autonomy, to own their lives, to make reproductive decisions, to make sexual decisions without being coerced. And that really, really does go into the population, and the level of advancement, the level of courage, the level of passion that the level of development even that we do
Hmm.
have, you know, going forward. Yeah. But to our
Right.
very third question is, tell us what's the Makeway program about from your perspective, and what motivated you to join this particular program? I can start actually. So the Makeway program for me, when I joined last year. I think we all joined last year. Was I do think a very current upcoming creative space for SRHR, because how I had, got into the lens of working in SRHR before was very rigid and very, like not, speaking to, adults or young people or whatever. But the Milkway program for me was the fact that it has like an intersectionality point of view, is understanding how very many different things affect people. Like, you have compounded vulnerabilities as a black person, as a person from a, developing country, as a woman, as everything else. So like, or putting all those things together, and then programming or advocating for SRHR is what sort of made me fall in love with this program. Bertha?
Yeah, not so different from you, Warindi. I really like the intersectionality aspect of the Make Way program. So here, you know how we have been preaching the message of inclusivity. We need to make sure we don't leave anyone behind. But the intersectionality concept of the make way interrogates who is left behind, right? Why are they
Yes.
left behind and how? So this makes a very comprehensive leave no one behind reality, because then we're looking deeply and asking, or rather interrogating, who are we leaving behind and how do we engage them on board. So it's really exciting to see this intersectionality aspect and done in 5 contexts of the Make Way program. That is Zambia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Uganda.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think, Vilda?
Wow. So for me, also mine was a bit different, and also in the same line with why you Warindi and Bertha got to join the Makeway program. So I joined the Makeway program first as a youth panel member in the Kenyan context. And what really drove me into this, because by the time I was joining, I was really struggling a lot with a number of things. For example, I was at campus, but of course, being a young woman with disability, I was still struggling with acceptance. So, although, yes, I was in the spaces where I can talk about, you see, SRHR, as a young person with disability, as a woman with disability, I was able to speak, but inside I was still struggling with how persons with disability have been labeled, even up to the university, the campus level, where people still label you. So I was still trying to fit how can I relate with people, as much as I think for some time I was hiding. And then when I saw this application, and then it was like, okay, all individuals, including people who are the most marginalized, should be able to realize their sexual reproductive health and rights. And also within the Make Way, something that I really liked so much was when you talk about sexual reproductive health and rights being human rights, and in a way the program allowing people to get information and get to have informed decision in regards to relationship, their bodily autonomy, when you talk about contraception, when you talk about sexuality and the overall well-being. And then also the fact that the program uses an approach of the intersectional lens in a way that breaking down barriers so that everyone have access to SRHR, like we say, sexual reproductive health and rights for all persons. So I think that was something that was so much interesting to me. And I said, okay, this is a bit unique. I've been into SRHR, sexual reproductive health and right programs, but then what is this intersectionality? Especially, they are talking about even the most marginalized. At a point or at a time, I'm still struggling with acceptance as a young woman, although in the campus studying, struggling with a number of things. So yeah, that is something that was so interesting, that really made me also to apply to be part of the Makeway program. And yeah, as just Bertha said, and you said, where you see using an intersectional approach and also being a consortium program that different organizations come up with different strength. Can we talk about feminism? Can we talk about disability lens, and not just addressing one identity at a time, but looking at a person from the perspective of, as much as you're a young woman, there are also other intersecting vulnerabilities or identities that may come with the same person, and not just looking at one perspective of it. Thank you, Arindi.
Thank you,
Right.
ladies.
That was beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Like I'm like I the thing
Also,
with
Warindi, just
yes, yes, Bertha, please go ahead.
yeah, I mean, kudos to Make Way for being so youth centric.
Right, because most programs are not youth centric at all. Like most programs actually like have this,
No.
tokenism for youth. But I love that this program is very youth centric and very youth centered approach of it. it's a very different experience from me. For me, like I really love it.
Warindi?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Go
I
ahead.
think also there is aspect of meaningful youth participation in different forums where young people, you see, you have the voice to say like, okay, this is what young people feel about this. These are our needs as young people, and being given a platform to just okay, air out your views, and then also action is taken, so that you see we talk about the youth-centered program, and of course it's really a youth-centered program, and the young people really have a voice in it. Yeah.
I mean, I do think so. So like this has been a lovely, lovely, lovely conversation with you, ladies, and I feel like the more we work together, the more I can connect with you all, with you all, and like the more we tell our own stories, the more we can connect, and I love that about us working together. So I really do hope that the audience
Mm-hmm.
can capture that because we're very honest with each other. We're all looking for growth, for development, for learning more about SRHR,
Yeah.
programming for SRHR, advocacy for SRHR. And I do think that's the main reason of having a youth-centered approach to SRHR, because as I said before, youth are the future of SRHR, because we're the next generation to be leading our countries, to be, ministers, to be presidents, to be everything else. So I do love that aspect about us.
Mm-hmm.
But as we wind up on our podcast today, um, I would just love to ask you like one sentence about what our audience can expect from us, from this podcast going on. I can start. I think the audience should expect
Yep.
riveting, honest conversations going forward. Bertha?
Right. Mm-hmm. I think apart from very honest conversations, I think lots of fun. Yeah,
Right.
discussing sexual reproductive health and rights.
Yes. All right.
Yes,
I think
and okay, apart from fun, but also networking, but also most importantly, we are very excited to share the Make Way SRHR toolkits, meaningful youth engagement toolkits, and different kinds of toolkits that would assist our fellow young activists in SRHR and in any other field to learn from and replicate in their context. And we'll be happy to share those success stories and best practices.
I mean, definitely. I'm looking forward to a very fun, very informative, very, lovely podcast with you all.
Mhm.
I do think we're already like in the
Yeah.
makings of it. Yeah, I'm very excited. For me, like, it's a very new experience, and I love our direction where we're going. But for now, like, I have to
Mhm.
end our podcast for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this podcast, and we look forward to engaging with you more. We're excited to share with you our next podcast episodes. For example, we will have Reverend Odera for our next episode to speak on sexuality, culture, and SRHR. So I do hope that you'll catch that conversation and also engage with us in the comments, or like even come onto our podcast as a guest. Thank you so much.
Right.
That's bye for us from now, and we hope to interact with you again. Bye.
Bye.